Producer Joe here from the Working Fans Podcast. And at the Working Fans Podcast, this is just a podcast that three lifelong fans created to have a place to talk comedy and pro wrestling. Now, our comedy podcast releases every Tuesday, while our wrestling podcast releases every Thursday. We release bonus episodes under the moniker Working Fans Presents every now and then. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, any major podcast provider. The important thing is just please like, rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to us. Now, we have started a new thing. We are now on Amazon and Audible. So those episodes release every Monday. And that's kind of going through the archives and just releasing our old episodes into new areas. So if you want to live through the process with us again, take that journey with us again, you can find us over on Amazon and Audible. Now, if you can't get enough of us in the audio form, check out our YouTube. It's youtube.com/C/Working Fans Wrestling Pod, or just search Working Fans Podcast on YouTube. We have the whole archive is up there. And if you listen to the Working Fans Podcast, you are more than familiar with the 531. That is our signature segment where we take your top 5 lists on a particular subject, vote it down to a top 3, and then debate it down to a top 1. Now, guys, if you want to hear 3 guys talk shit about comedy, wrestling, life, anything, you will enjoy the Working Fans Podcast.
All right, everybody, it's the Combatcast with Dave and Chevy, and today we're going to do a little segment called Dave and Chevy Play Matchmaker, starting with the female weight classes, just a fun way just to pick some fights, some super fights, some just regular fights we think that might be fun, and who we think might win and how it'll go down. Chevy, how we doing?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. All right, I'm gonna kick off. I don't know. You pick some fights too. We'll see what we got. Maybe we have the same fights here, so we'll see. The first fight I got. Okay. So starting off with the strawweight division, I got the Karate Hottie, Michelle Waterson versus Mackenzie Dern. I think at this point you still got to favor the Karate Hottie, but I feel like Dern is on the way up. And the Karate Hottie might be on the way down. She's a great fighter, but I just feel like that's the career trajectories I'm seeing because Michelle's been in so many fights, and Dern is obviously gaining experience. But right now, I think if you put those two up, I would probably edge it to Michelle Waterson and maybe have her pick a decision. What do you think?
I think I'd go with Dern on that because Dern has a hard time making the weight. She's big for the weight class, and Karate Hottie, I think, was an Invicta, the atom weight champion, so she's smaller. Mm-hmm. So in a grappling exchange, I favor the heavy grappler and the heavier fighter. So I think if she got her hands on her, she takes her down and probably chokes her out pretty quick. But in a stand-up fight, Michelle's definitely more technical.
Yeah, I can see that too. I was gonna say if you do go Dern, I'm gonna go with a submission. Did you have a different fight for this weight class?
Yeah, I'd like to see Joanna versus Zhang Wei Li again because obviously that first fight was so amazing, but it was so close. I think that I'd like to see that one again, and it could have been a draw, and it could be a draw again. I could watch that fight every weekend, really.
Yeah.
Who do you got on that one?
I would go Wei Li. I think, again, a little similar. I think she's on the way up. Jacek, I think, has been in so many battles. But Jacek's took some time off recently, so you never know when we see him get back together in there.
True.
But like you, it's almost stylistically, it's such an evenly matched, superb fight. Really anybody's guess what would happen, but I would favor Weili. Jumping up to our next division here, women's flyweight. I decided since Valentina is so dominant, I went with Amanda Nunes as her possible opponent here because I think that's the only fight you can really make for Valentina.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they fought before, but I say let's just say we did it at flyweight. I don't think that's going to happen. But I would favor Valentina. I think Valentina may even be able to get it done at bantamweight. I think there's no way. That's one of the great things about this fight because it really shows like the difference in weight classes too.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no way I see Valentina beating Amanda at featherweight, which she's full grown, can do whatever she wants. But at bantamweight, if they did it there, I think Valentina's got a shot. I'd probably favor Nunes still. Because again, nobody at flyweight I think is taking out Valentina.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. Nobody is going to beat her at that weight class anytime soon. If they do, it'll be some freak thing where they catch her in something. But I don't think Amanda's ever going to make 125. So
No.
Unfortunately, if we see that fight, it's going to be at a weight class where it's Valentina's at a disadvantage. I had for the women's flyweight, I want to see Jojo Calderwood versus Jessica Andrade the second time. I just like both of them. I think stylistically, the pressure grappler versus the technical counter striker is a great stylistic matchup.
I'm gonna go. I'll pick Andrade if that does happen again too. I do think the power will be the big difference.
Mm-hmm. She definitely has the advantage on the ground too.
Game changing power too.
Yeah.
All right, women's bantamweight. I'm gonna actually just for fun. I'm gonna pick a fight that's coming up that got postponed. Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena. I think Pena does provide interesting matchups for Nunes in the sense she is a good grappler. However, we know Nunes is awesome on the ground with her jiu-jitsu, and Nunes does have that power. So as we get ready for that fight, I'm going to be favoring Nunes ultimately anyway. But, hey, under the right circumstances, you never know. Pena could make it interesting. But I also might be giving her too much credit maybe. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I think Nunes is going to get that done.
I think Nunes smashes her easily and brutally.
There you go.
Yeah, as she does. Bantamweight, I want to see a rematch, but this fight happened at featherweight. I don't want to see Holly Holm versus Durandame too. So obviously that fight, the first time was for the first featherweight title. It was a very close fight. Durandame had some cheap shots and I wanted Holly Holm to win that. I thought she could have won it even with the cheap shots. They should have probably taken points for because it happened more than once. But stylistically, it's a good matchup. Both good strikers. I'd like to see that again at bantamweight.
Yeah, and I think Holm might edge her out this time. I really do. I thought Holm was close enough last time, and Holm seems to, a lot of times with the exception of Nunes, I can't remember if that was a rematch or not, but basically, yeah, a lot of fights that are rematches, Holmes seems to do a little better in.
I'd also like to see Miesha Tate, depending on her, her next fight, if she can do well in her next fight back, maybe she gets a shot at Amanda Nunes because they had a pretty good fight. So.
Yeah, and Tate's somebody who learns, and when we see the history. Yeah. All right, so let's go to the flyweight men's division.
Oh, we're skipping over women's featherweight.
Yeah, I did not pick a
featherweight. I didn't pick any either. There are no fighters. There's no fighters.
Absolutely not. Brandon Moreno, the champ, possibly fighting Cody No Love. It's been talked about. Man, I like Cody. I think he's great. However, Brandon has been so tenacious at this weight class, and he just looks so good winning that title. And he continues to improve. Unless Cody catches him, I favor Brandon. I just favor somebody with the experience at this weight class, and I think people need to start putting a little more emphasis on the fact that these guys that fight at that weight class fight for a reason. There's a reason when it comes to making weight. He's experienced at doing this, and yeah, man, I got Brandon Moreno all day.
Yeah, I agree. That's a fight I'd like to see if it happens. I don't know, but if Brandon looks the way he did against Figueiredo in that second fight, he could beat anyone. He was world class. For my fights, I had I'm not the biggest Cejudo fan, as is Triple C gimmick, but his fighting style and ability is amazing. So I have him versus basically anyone in the division, but Figueiredo would be a good matchup for maybe him to come back. Obviously Moreno, if he comes back, he probably gets an immediate title shot since he relinquished the belt when he retired. But thinking back to those 2 fights he had against DJ, I'd like to see them run it back again because he got dismantled in the first one, learned from it, came back, had a close second fight, and won on some bullshit takedowns where he didn't do any damage, in my opinion. So, and then DJ was gone after that. So I'd like to see that fight happen again, and a dream matchup. Obviously, that's probably not happening, but
yeah, I like the Cejudo Brandon Moreno matchup too. That would be fun to see.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of crazy scrambles, good, fast striking.
Yeah, I think he'd be a more interesting matchup than Cody even, because he is such a difficult challenger at the end of the day because of that wrestling. But man, I don't know. Again, if Moreno looks as good as he looked the last time, I think he's the best best flyweight in the world right now. That being said, yeah, let's go to bantamweight next. A couple guys who are right on the outside. One coming off a loss, one coming off a win. Corey Sandhagen and Rob Font. Just a contenders matchup here. I think if these two fight, I think you're talking about 2 guys on the cusp of a title shot. Font continues to impress me. Every fight, he gets better and better. That being said, I feel like Sandhagen just has a little bit more in the toolbox. And I think that his fight with Dillashaw, even in a loss, super impressive. And at times, even though I did thought TJ won the fight, I thought, Sandhagen was like right there and could have finished him possibly at different points too. So this would be a banger. I'm going to lean towards Sandhagen if it happens.
Yeah, I agree. I think with Rob Font's boxing being as amazing as it is, he leans on that. And although he has great footwork, it's not as good as TJ's, I don't think. And he would get caught with one of those flying knees or some other explosive something that Sandhagen can throw at him. If it goes later on into the fight, I think I would assuming it's a 5-round fight, I'd lead towards Rob Font because he has a good gas tank also.
See, what do you got for this weight class?
So I have I'd like to see TJ versus Aldo, which we had recently talked about. The more I thought about it, the more I think stylistically that matchup is really good, and I want to see it. And I think we will see it at some point, hopefully, before Aldo starts getting too old. Or TJ, I think they're about the same age. So
yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
I also have I want to see Dominic Cruz versus Sugar Sean, which we talked about recently too. I want to see that footwork versus the length and reach of Sugar Sean.
Yeah, kind of the young lion too, trying to emulate that style a little bit. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I think at this point in their careers, I would lean towards Cruz still, but that's another again where Cruz has been around for the sport for a long time, and Sean O'Malley, despite people not liking him, he's just going to continue to improve. I think, and he'll
sure.
Yeah, someone to deal with down the road. All right, featherweight, a fight that we know is, I believe, coming up at some point. Yair Rodriguez versus Max Holloway. Man, I think that is just going to be a barn burner of a striking fight. We both love Yair. Yair is constantly improving. Problem is, so is Max Holloway.
Yep.
Max Holloway is just like, light years was ahead of him already because of his experience, but Max just keeps improving. Unless something happens to Max that's going to slow him down that we don't see coming, I think this guy is the most dangerous guy, even without the title. at featherweight. So I'm always going to probably favor him right now. Lovely Yair makes an interesting matchup. I think it'd be a fun fight, but I'd favor Holloway.
I agree. So Max is good everywhere, but his boxing, is amazing. So, and also he's never been knocked down ever. So he's not going to get caught in any submissions or anything like that from Yair. Maybe he says, spinning wheel kick or something hurts him, but he hasn't been knocked down. Yair has broke mentally, although he's proved to be mentally strong also, but I think Max is going to put it on him, showboat a little bit, embarrass him maybe. Good fight, but I think maybe Max TKO or decision.
Yeah.
And in my list, I put Max versus anyone. I'd watch him fight literally anyone, and he'll make it exciting. He's great, but a couple specific ones, I'd like to see him versus Korean Zombie. With Korean Zombie's pressure and chin, he's going to walk into Max's punches, but Max isn't, he's an accumulation fighter. So be a long war, and Zombie might, catch him with something, drag him down, make it a dirty fight. And obviously I'd like to see Max versus Conor too. I'd like to see the rematch after, the vast improvement from Max and Conor's seemingly, inevitable decline.
It'll be interesting seeing Conor at featherweight too. Yeah.
That was like the last, he was very dominant there, and then he didn't start having struggles until he went up.
Yeah. All right, lightweight. Speaking of Conor, lightweight, I have Justin Gaichi versus Michael Chandler. Fight in talks already. I think it's a great fight. I look forward to this one. I am going to say it's really a pick'em, but I'm leaning towards Gaichi right now. I just feel like he's just been in there with the best of the best. And although Chandler had a great fight with Charles Oliveira, he caught Hooker early, and I do think Chandler is one of the best in the world. But man, I just feel like Gaichi just having those wars with Poirier, the wars earlier with Alvarez and everybody. I just feel like his display he put on Tony Ferguson before anyone else did that to Tony Ferguson, really. I just feel like Gaethje's, I don't know. I lean towards him. I think he'll get it done. I think the later the fight goes, Gaethje gets it done.
Yeah, I agree pretty much 100%. Yeah. They're fairly similar fighters, Chandler uses his wrestling a little bit more offensively, has a little bit better, lateral movement, but he's powerful and he can wrestle just like Gaethje. I think, like you said, though, Gaethje probably walks him down and finishes him, hurts him and finishes him. I have a couple fights, so I wanted to see Khabib versus GSP at lightweight. That'd be a dream matchup. Obviously, it's hard to tell. It'd be a pick'em fight too, probably, but GSP is probably one of the only people I could see getting it done against Khabib.
I'd lean towards Khabib though, just because of the weight class.
Yeah.
I think lightweight, that's Khabib's division.
Yeah, and obviously the famous matchup that never happened would be Tony versus Khabib. Maybe a vintage Tony, if he could, work things from the ground, do submissions. But I would give that to Khabib as well.
Yeah, no. Khabib definitely made a believer out of me, especially in his last several fights. Like, I was already convinced the guy was great, but I always kept looking for someone to possibly upset him and knock him off. And I'm like, no, this guy's just unbelievable. So
how about what do you got? Who do you got?
I was gonna say, so ironically, my next welterweight fight was Khabib. Two of them. I was thinking one of them was Khabib going up to welterweight to fight Usman, and the other one was GSP versus Usman, because I think Usman is so dominant right now. He keeps getting better and better and better. I think he would beat GSP right now. I don't think GSP has the stand-up as good. He's good with the strikes, but I think Usman's just looking so great, and he's starting to show that power now too, which is scary because he was already a superb wrestler. And the pace he puts on, I don't think GSP at this point is going to keep up. Habib is an interesting one because we've never seen Habib at welterweight. But I'm going to lean towards Usman if this fight ever takes place, just because we haven't seen Habib at welterweight, and we don't know if he'd be able to throw around Usman like he would other people. And I'm going to say maybe not, because Usman's big, he's strong, and he's got that nasty wrestling as well.
I'd like to know what both guys walk around at, because I'm pretty sure I've heard that Khabib was walking around at like 190. So, cutting to 170, that might be his strongest division in reality. So,
right.
But in a stand-up fight, like you said, Usman's stand-up has gotten exponentially better. And now he's working with Trevor Whitman. His jab, is amazing. He put Gilbert Burns down with his jab. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. So
he did. Yeah.
I think I agree. I would go with Usman, but we might see the best version of Khabib at 170.
Plus, he knocked out Masvidal in his last fight too.
Right,
it's incredible. Yeah, striking. Yeah.
So for welterweight, I want to see Jeff Neal, Hands of Steel Neal versus Jorge. I think that's a good striking matchup. I'd like to see Neal's good footwork and head movement. I think that'd just be an exciting fight.
Yeah,
I probably would go with Jorge just on experience and toughness.
Yeah, same. I'm gonna agree with that. I think Masvidal definitely would get it done on experience. That's but a fun fight nonetheless.
I have a couple more welterweight fights.
Sure.
I got some Leon Edwards fights. So how about Leon versus Jorge? Obviously, the three-piece Minnesota thing. There's a story. There's some heat. I'd like to see that one. I think although Leon is probably the more well-rounded fighter, I think Jorge would probably be in his head. So I think I'd lean towards Jorge in that one.
I think Leon could outpoint him, but assuming it's a 5-round fight, I think, like I said, he got caught with Nate. I think Masvidal will really put it on him a little more than as the fight continues to go on. And I'm going to lean towards Masvidal with a late finish if that fight happens.
All right, how about Bilal Muhammad versus Leon? So obviously they had a fight recently, but unfortunately Leon poked Bilal in the eye bad, and the fight had to be stopped. What do you think about that one?
It's another fight I'd be interested to see. Really, a lot of this depends on how good Edwards is towards these later rounds with some of these fighters. That last fight with, Nate did kind of make me wonder. But I will lean towards Edwards on that one, just because some key victories he's had and everything, and how good he did look, against Nate overall before that. So I'll lean towards Leon in that one.
I think I'd lean towards Bilal in that one. Just stylistically, I think he would clinch and tire Leon out pretty quickly, and then make it a dirty fight instead of, staying on the outside and letting it be technical where Leon is the best.
Now, I got middleweight. All right, just the fight I picked. Darren Till versus Paulo Costa. I think it's interesting because Costa likes to bully people with his size and his strength. And I think Till is big enough where he could stand up with him. I think Till's technically a little better. And, man, I know he's had some tough fights here and there. But I don't know. I just feel like Till's going to be – I think the jury's still out, but I think he's going to get this done. And I think he's going to eventually continue to improve and make a run at this here. It's just mentally the way he talks and the way he seems so prepared when I listen to him. Whereas Paulo is almost the opposite for me. Like, he's super impressive, but mentally, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't see a guy who handled his loss very well with style bender. Right. So
immediately making excuses. Yeah.
So I lean, man, it'd be hard to put my money on Till given the past victories of Paulo Costa and everything. But I think Till gets it done. I think especially as time goes on in this fight game, Till is going to be the one we'll see, on top here.
I agree. I'm sure I'm skewed and biased because I like Till so much. I could see, Costa walking through a few shots and catching Till with something, but I imagine the fight playing out the way you said, where he, outpoints him until a point where Costa's tired, hurts him, maybe finishes him, or wins a decision.
I agree.
You got any other middleweight fights?
No.
All right, I got a few of these too. So obviously we talked about this before. I still want to see it Hall versus Stylebender, just for stylistic fight. I don't care if it's not for a belt or whatever. It's in a park.
I got to go Stylebender all day on that one.
Yeah, definitely. Me too.
It'd be fun.
But it'd be a fun fight. And we were talking about Till. I want to see Till versus Stylebender too. Lead up for that fight would be great. Till's been calling him out, telling him he's coming for years. Also, stylistically, pretty good fight. I favor
Style.
Yeah. I favor Stylebender in that one as well. Probably all of them. And then another good matchup, could be a matchup for Till would be Strickland, who just fought Hall.
Yes.
I think that'd be a good next step, maybe, to get him on track and start a run towards the title. I think he wins that fight, but it's a good matchup for him.
Yeah, Till actually versus Strickland and maybe Hall would be a couple of good fights to get him his feet wet if you were in charge of the career of Darren Till and you were trying to promote him and get him the proper fights next. Those would be two very good fights for him. Unfortunately, UFC isn't always in that business, and they might throw him with some bangers and he might get caught.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm a fan of Till. I'm glad we had him on the list there. Light heavyweight. I only got one, but I got Thiago Santos versus Dominic Riaz. I think Thiago's been, that grizzled veteran. He's got the wars. He's looked good. And Dominic looks like he's struggled in his last few fights. But I still think he's going to come out of this all right. And I think if they fought right now, I think Dom could pull it off or even get the finish. I think that I think Thiago's also, been through a lot of wars too. And I think that might affect him coming up. But we'll see. I mean, it definitely, it could go either way.
Yeah, Dom has the good footwork. So depends on his mental state. But I agree. I think I'd go with Dom as well in that fight. It's a good matchup, though.
Who else you got?
I have Yuri. I'm going to ruin this. Petraska.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember the guy, but he has the top knot, and he's very zen, and he's an exciting fighter. I'd like to see him versus anyone in the division, but Thiago Santos I think would be a good matchup. Fighting a big power puncher who can still has good footwork and everything. I favor Yuri against almost anyone at this point. He could fight for the belt next, and I think I'd favor him. Really? After his last few performances.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I don't know about Jan, but I definitely think you're right. I think the division's wide open right now, and I definitely think that I like him getting it done against an Anthony Smith or a Thiago. So yeah,
I think so. Speaking of Anthony Smith, I have him in another fight. I'd like to see him versus Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker, the super exciting, flashy guy. I'd like to see him and all his flair versus the grizzled vet. Anthony Smith can do it anywhere, so I'd like to see him kind of just shut Johnny Walker down.
I think he might too right now, but Walker could definitely catch him too, so it does make a fun fight. Anyone else you got?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, heavyweight. We picked one fight. It's the super heavyweight fight that everybody's potentially talking about and clamoring for. John Jones, Francis Ngannou. I think, man, it's so hard to bet against John Jones, right? But I just think that, unless John Jones, he's going to have to be a completely different fighter. I just think that power from the Francis Ngannou is just, it's so, going to be so dangerous for John who gets hit. It's really tough. I mean, if you go later rounds, you'd probably be crazy not to favor John. But those early first couple of rounds are going to be brutal. Man, maybe I should be picking Jones. Maybe this is biasness, but I don't know. I think that power is the difference maker, and I think Francis Ngannou would get it done in round 2. But
yeah, I also have that fight on my list. I think, like you said, John does get hit, which we've said when we discussed before. But he's never been knocked out but he hasn't felt Francis's power. No one can match that. Francis, obviously, he's not a great wrestler, but he did take Stipe down, who is, the greatest heavyweight of all time. So I think maybe he continues to work on his wrestling. He can hold John at bay and touch him with something. He finishes him in the first or second round. I have a few fights at heavyweight, I think, because heavyweight's a fun division. So I want to see Tom Aspinall versus Volkov. I think that's a good. I mean, it's quite a difference in rankings. I think Aspinall's like 12 or something like that, and Volkov's in the top 5. But stylistically, I think that's a good matchup for him to get him closer to a title shot. It's hard. I think it's a pick 'em fight though. Volkov's good everywhere.
Yeah,
Aspinall's mostly stand up, so it'd be a tough fight. But if he could get that, he could get up close to a title shot.
I'd probably lean towards Volkov right now, but it's definitely that'd be close.
The next one I have is obviously I still want to see Lewis versus Ngannou too. I'll always want to see that. I don't care how many times Derek Lewis loses, or it doesn't need to be for a belt or anything. I just want to see those two swing at each other
because we know he's got the power. He could get it. Yeah,
either one could knock the other one out, and we got really cheated on the first fight with Derek's back being hurt, and neither guy wanted to get knocked out, I guess. I don't even want to pick that one because that could be just whoever lands the first clean punch. And then I have another good matchup would be Derek Lewis versus Tai Tuivasa. So,
you gave me an idea too. Go ahead.
Yeah, big fan of both guys. Obviously, similar matchup. I think it could be whoever lands the big punch first wins that fight. Ty's not ranked in the top 15, I don't think. So he's nowhere near getting that fight, but stylistically, good matchup for him. Both guys would be super funny, good build up probably.
I'm trying to think, where does Nikita Krylov fight right now? Is he at heavyweight again?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's somewhere in the middle of the rankings, middle of the top 15.
I'd like to see him fight Ty.
That'd be a good matchup.
That'd be a fun fight. Yeah.
Just
to see how they bring it to him, because Nikita loves to finish or be finished kind of guy. So's Ty. I think maybe I lean towards Ty just because I think he's a little bigger and have that power. But
it's hard with heavyweights because, like you're saying, it's whoever really could land the first punch. Anyone could go down.
Yeah, I know we didn't even put Stipe on this, but I think it's because we've seen Stipe have these fights, and so it's just a question now: do we get that Stipe Jones fight? And we just talked about that one. So, yeah. All right. I think that's going to be it. I know there's a card this weekend. We already talked about the main event. Jared Kinnair versus Kelvin Gaslum. I think we're both leaning towards Kinnair, or are you leaning towards Gaslum in that one? I don't remember.
I'm still flipping back and forth, but I want Kelvin to win.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning towards Kelvin.
Yeah, I want Kelvin to win too. I think I said the last time that Cran's going to have a fit that he knows that I thought that Kinnair was going to win, but I do think Kinnair is going to pull it off. I just think he's looked pretty good for the most part, other than what happened with Whitaker. But I think that Jared Kinnair is a guy to be watching for.
Kelvin has also got his back against the cage or whatever. He's I think won in his last 5. He's won, so he needs this win, or otherwise he might be out the door.
Right. So mentally, the pressure's on Kelvin too. So, well, we'll see. All right, fight fans, that's going to do it for this week. Dave and Chevy, we're out.
See ya.